So let's quickly refresh ourselves by going through how our app works when it's using Realm. So let's first go into our appdelegate.swift class, and we can delete core data now. And we can also delete all of these core data saving related code. And I'm also going to get rid of my application will terminate. Now I'm going to leave my Realm initialization here just to catch to see if there's any errors when I initialize a new Realm. And because we're not really using it here, we can simply make this an underscore and delete that let keyword as well. And this print statement is also giving us a warning. And in the future, we might need to find out where our Realm file is. So I'm not going to delete it, but instead I'm just going to comment it out. So now we have no warnings and we can safely save our app delegate. Now, nothing really happens inside our app delegate, so let's go and have a look at our data models. The category data model is the first one that we created, and it is a Realm object. So by subclassing this object class, we're able to save our data using Realm. And we can specify for our classes what properties it should have. And for the category, it has a name property. It's going to be the name of the category. And this is a dynamic variable, so we can monitor for changes in this property while the app is running, i.e. during runtime. Even if you look at the errors pane, you can see that there's build time errors and there's runtime errors. So this is before you compile, and this is while your app is running. And we've also got this relationship, and it specifies that each category can have a number of items, and that is a list of item objects. And item objects are also subclassing the Realm object, and that allows them to be saved using Realm as well. And the item is a little bit more fancy. It has 3 properties: a title, whether if it was done or not, and also now it has a date created property. And finally, we specify the inverse relationship that links each item back to a parent category. And we specify the type of the destination of the link, and we also specify the property name of the inverse relationship, and that relates to this property. So now we can go inside our category view controller, and we can see that the first thing we did is we initialized a new access point to our Realm database, and then we changed our categories from an array of category items to this new collection type, which is a collection of results that are category objects. And this isn't optional, so that we can be safe. And when our view first gets loaded up, we load up all of the categories that we currently own. So inside loan categories, we set that property categories to look inside our Realm and fetch all of the objects that belong to the category data type. And then we reload our table view with the new data. And that reload data calls all of these data source methods again, and it returns the number of categories as the number of rows. And if this is nil, i.e. if we have no categories, then we simply return one cell. And that cell is going to have a text label depending on whether, again, if we have any categories. If we do, then we look at the categories results collection and we pick out the one for the current index path.row, and we use the name property to fill up that text label. But if this is nil, i.e. if we didn't have any categories at all, then we simply fill that single cell with the words no categories added yet, and we return the cell. Now, when we add a new item by clicking on the add button, then we create an alert, and the alert has a text field and also an add button. When we click on that add button, we create a new category that is a new category object, and we give the new category the name based on what the user typed into the text field. And then we call the save method to save this new category to our Realm database. And inside the save category, we pass in that new category that we created here. And we call this function called realm.write to commit some changes to our realm. And the changes we want to make is we want to add our new category to our realm database. And we log if there are any errors. Now, the next part is what happens when we click on any of our cells. Well, when we click on the cells, we fire didSelectRow@IndexPath, and it performs a segue with the identifier that takes us to the to-do list view controller. But before we do so, we create a new instance of our destination VC, and we set the destination VC's selected category property to the category at the indexPath.row that was selected, which triggered this particular segue. Now that takes us onto the to-do list view controller, and when we set this selected category, i.e. during the didSet block, we call load items, which loads up all of the to-do list items, which again is a collection of results that are item objects. And this gets set to be equal to the selected category dot items. So remember that list of items inside category? Well, in the selected category object, it also has a bunch of items associated with it. And those items then in turn get sorted by their title, and they are listed in alphabetical order. And then we reload the table view to call our data source methods, which specifies that we should have as many cells as we have to do items for our current selected category. But if there are no items for our current selected category, then we just return one cell. And that cell is going to have a text label based on the current item's title. And if the item.done property is true, then we give that cell a check mark. Otherwise, we give it nothing. But if there are no to-do items, i.e. this is nil, then the else block triggers, and that single cell that we created up here gets populated with the text no items added. Now in the to-do list view controller, when we press the add item button inside our UI alert, then we look to see if our selected category is nil or not, because it's an optional, remember? And if it's not nil, then we set it to have this name called current category. And then we try to update our realm by creating a new item, setting the new item's title, setting the date created for the new item to be the current date and time, and then we set the current category's item property to append this new item to the end of that list. And we commit all of that to our realm database. And then we reload our table view with all of that new data that we added. And when we select any of the cells, then we grab a reference to the item by looking into that collection of results called to-do items, and we grab the item at the current selected indexPath.row, and then we try to update its value by using realm.write, and we toggle the item.done property to be the opposite of whatever it used to be. And then we again reload the data and deselect our cell. Now finally, when we select the search bar and we type something and we click on the search bar search button, then we update our collection of results called to-do items to a filtered version based on a predicate, which says that the title of the items must contain this argument. And the argument is whatever the user entered into the search bar. And then we sort the items by the date that they were created in ascending order. And then we reload our data. And if we dismiss our search bar, then we call load items all over again. And that basically resets to-do items to all of the items inside the current selected category. And it's now sorted by alphabetical order. So as you can see, by using Realm instead of core data, we actually vastly simplified our code. And I don't know if you'll agree with me, but I think the logic is also simpler. There's no extra classes, there's no hidden classes. All the lines of code are more human readable, like .filter, .sort, and it makes a lot more sense when you're just glancing through the code. So have a play around with Realm, and it's completely your choice how you want to persist your data. And if you prefer core data, then that's an equally valid solution. Don't let me put you off it. But personally, I really like using Realm, and a lot of my colleagues also feel the same. And Realm has other benefits other than just ease of use. And you can have a look through the Realm blog for a lot of these reasons on why. But, in addition to its simplicity, it's also a lot faster than Core Data or SQLite. So if you have a look at the number of queries you can make per second to your database, you can see that Realm is almost double SQLite, and it's way more than Core Data. So it has a lot of other benefits as well, and it's well worth looking through the documentation, seeing what other things can you do with Realm, and also look at their example project and see how far you can go with it. So that's all from me for now. In the next few lessons, we'll be styling it up for our Todoist app. Now, those lessons are completely optional because we're only going to be dealing with front-end UI stuff, but we will be coding up and adding some libraries in order to make our app look beautiful as well as work well. So if you're interested, I'll see you for that on the next lesson.